Once upon a time, in a world called Hades, stood the castle of the Demon King, home to three dangerous and deranged demon princesses considered enemies of the world. Meanwhile, far away, in demonic territory, a goddess was summoning new heroes to fight against those evil princesses. Among them was a young man named Ruko, completely confused as to why he was there. Moments before, I was sitting in class when an earthquake happened, and now I was in another world. The goddess gently apologized and explained that they had all died in their previous world, but thanks to her summoning magic, they were alive again, now in the glorious Lux Empire. She revealed that peace in this world was threatened by demons, and begged for her strength to fight them. First of all, he asked them to raise their hand and show their status panels. The students did it right away, revealing powerful titles and skills. The goddess was impressed, and even the skinny old hermit next to her praised their potential as true heroes. There was only Ryuko left. Nervous, he opened his status window. But instead of a great skill, he found a cryptic riddle that spoke of difficulties, broken dreams, and an endless struggle. The hermit got confused and asked if everything was okay. When Ryuko showed him his status window, the old man frowned, visibly disturbed by what he saw. Suddenly, Ryuko's screen turned blank, not listing any power. Upon seeing him, the goddess was horrified, realizing that the boy was not a hero. Ryuko could not believe that he was not a hero like his companions, and immediately grabbed the goddess, demanding to know what would become of him now. But the rest of the students, seeing his aggression towards the goddess, began to insult him with horrible words. Those words hurt him deeply, reminding him of his painful past, in which no one ever believed his side of the story. Before things got more awkward, the goddess calmly announced that all the heroes would spend a year of training before facing the Demon King. Until then, they were free to explore and adapt to the new world. Excited, the students rushed out to do sightseeing and look for food, leaving Ryuko alone. The goddess then gently approached and apologized for the upset. Seductively, she wrapped her hand with his and told him that she had a request just for him. With innocent eyes, he explained to her that it was for the good of the empire, and he needed her cooperation. Ryuko accepted without thinking, happy to finally be useful. But later, on the way to fulfill that request, a soldier brutally kicked him out of a carriage. The man mercilessly revealed the truth. Ryuko's request was to die there, and that his corpse would serve as proof to convince the enemy that the hero had died. Abandoned in the wild by the knight, who called him a fake hero before leaving, Ryuko remained sitting on the ground, heartbroken. All he ever wanted was to be useful to someone. No one in his original world needed him, and now this new world rejected him too. Suddenly, he heard a strange sound in his head that announced the beginning of some kind of test. And then his status panel appeared, revealing his true skill, the Hanged Man. Ryuko noticed that his intuition became sharper and clearer, and immediately heard a noise coming from deep in some bushes. He saw a human shadow and ran towards the figure, hoping it was another human. When he arrived, he found a terrifying bloody monster stalking a girl with horns. Ryuko noticed that at first the girl seemed proud, even in the face of danger, but when the beast got closer, she screamed asking to be saved. Ryuko decided to help her, although his intuition screamed at him not to interfere, warning him that saving her would mean death. Still, the protagonist challenged his own limits, determined to be useful for once in his pathetic existence. He ran up to the monster and let loose a fierce punch in his face, declaring that they would die together. The blow sent him and the beast rolling off a cliff. Ryuko crashed to the ground hard, and the only thing he saw at that moment was the road to hell. But he accepted death, thinking that at least his miserable life had served to save someone. Just then, the girl he saved refused to let him die. He fed him infused with his magic and assured him that he would recover. Moments later, Ryuko woke up to find himself being taken care of by the girl. She was smiling, relieved to see him alive. She proudly introduced herself as Ruranoa, the only daughter of the great Demon King. Confused, Ryuko asked him what the Demon King's daughter was doing in the forest. Ruranoa explained that the previous day had been her birthday, and among the gifts she received a magic sealing spell and a transport device, but that it was actually more of a curse. He teleported her to the forest, and left her unable to use her powers. The demon princess then asked Ryoku his name, and why he was wandering in such dangerous demonic territory. Ryoku introduced himself as a summoned human from another world, but bitterly admitted that he was nothing more than a fake hero. Ruranoa found it fascinating. He said that it was the first time he had seen someone from another world, and immediately assumed that he must be very strong. But Ryoku denied this, saying that he was not worthy of such praise. Reflecting on how he was abandoned by his companions, Ryoku confessed to the demon princess that he had nowhere to return to. He told her that after arriving in that world, he had achieved nothing, and was only struggling to survive. But Ruranoa interrupted him firmly, insisting that saving his life was more than enough. He stated that he was happy for her to do so, and promised to give her a place to stay along with many other benefits. With authoritarian confidence, he told her that the reason he was still alive was to get to that world and save her. Then, with a proud smile, he offered Ryoku a place, not as a hero, but as his butler in the Demon King's castle. Ryoku, overwhelmed, realized that it was the first time he really felt needed. And the strange thing was that it came from the selfish but determined words of a demon princess. She held out her hand, waiting for his answer, and Ryoku, knowing that it was a point of no return, accepted his offer. As they were walking through the forest towards the demon castle, Ryoku hesitantly asked if they were really going in the right direction. Ruranoa assured her without hesitation, but something suddenly startled her. Out of nowhere, a huge venomous snake attacked them, but Ryoku defended Ruranoa by crushing her with his fist. Impressed, Ruranoa praised him with pride, calling that the strength of the butler she had chosen. Already on their second day together, Ryoku was reflecting on his abilities, as he finally began to understand how his tests worked. Every time he encountered a monster stronger than himself, he had to face a test of survival or submission. Escaping counted as survival, while fighting counted as submission, and completing either increased their strength. So far, he had managed to resist without food or water, which he suspected could be influence of leveling up. Still, there was something that troubled him. I remembered getting an error message about a mysterious ability called Reverse, but I had no idea how to activate it. The voice in his head was provoking him by giving him clues on how to activate that power, but Ryoku, frustrated, was yelling at him to stop teasing. After traveling some distance, Rurano saw black and pure smoke rising into the sky, and assumed that it must be a sign from his allies. Without warning, he jumped on Ryoku's back and told him to run. Ryoku froze for a moment before launching himself at full speed, while the demon princess praised his incredible speed. But as he ran, Ryoku wondered if the Knights of Rinoa would even accept a fake hero like him. However, Rinoa's words gave her confidence. When she promised to proudly present him to her family once they arrived at the Demon King's castle. Suddenly, Ryoku's instincts screamed at him to jump, so he launched himself into the air, but upon landing, he came face to face with a huge wolf that radiated a terrifying aura. Ruranoa immediately suggested that they flee, but Ryoku warned him that it was too late, and if they looked away for a second, they would be dead. At that moment, the test system confirmed that Ryoku was now in combat with a hostile monster and that the goal of the test was to defeat the Great Wolf of Death. The system explained that the battle was tied to unlocking his reverse skill, and that the outcome depended on it. As the beast slowly approached, Ryoku asked Ruranoa to hide while he prepared. But the system announced that in order to activate reverse, not only magical power was needed, but also a strong emotion. Lightning panicked, wondering what the hell that voice meant. Before I could figure it out, the wolf attacked with overwhelming speed. Lightning Oaken's intuition couldn't keep up with him, and, in an instant, he was crushed to the ground under the beast's paw. Ruranoa shouted her name in fright, which only attracted the furious gaze of the monster towards her, which began to approach. Lying on the ground, Ryoku panicked, and yelled at the wolf not to lay a hand on him. But the system notified him again that his reverse ability could only awaken through humanity's original sin. The system then asked him to decide between protecting Ruranoa or fail. But Ryoku didn't care about the sin or the conditions. All I wanted was power to save her. So he desperately begged the system to give him that power, now before the wolf hurt Ruranoa. As his level and magic power met the requirements, the system finally accepted and announced the hangman's activation. In the blink of an eye, chains of dark energy exploded around Ryaku, and he transformed, wearing the greedy mask of death. Enveloped in a sinister and overflowing aura, the wolf roared and attacked, but this time Ryaku activated a spell called Genius, which tied the beast in the air with strong dark chains and crashed it to the ground. Ruronoa was shocked by her butler's new appearance and asked if he was still the same. Ryoku assured her that he did, although he admitted that he had no idea what had just happened. With the wolf overpowered, the system updated the test, saying that he should now be left defenseless, and that if he succeeded, he would get his dominance. Ryoku also noticed that the wolf was suffering, realizing that he was suffering from some kind of magical curse. So she decided to free him from his torment by activating the goblin effect, which absorbed the berserker curse of the beast, and turned it into brute physical power. Once this was done, the wolf's strength returned, and the system confirmed the success of the test. The system then offered Lightning, or the Dominion, an opportunity to make the wolf his companion. But Kyurei rejected the idea, and told the huge creature that he could not handle such a large pet at that time. Disappointed, the wolf moaned softly, moving his ears. But Ryoku promised her that maybe one day, if she managed to shrink in size, they would meet again. With the threat over, Rura hugged Ryoku tightly, praised him, and told him that he was indispensable. He then vowed to make everyone in the Demon King's castle recognize his value. Days later, Ryoku finally woke up, only to realize that he was inside the Demon King's castle. He was greeted by Fina, the head of the maids, who informed him that 2 weeks had passed since he was taken there. Surprised, Ryoku could barely take it in, but Fina quickly urged him to change his clothes, saying that the Demon King himself was waiting for him. Now dressed as a butler, Ryoku stood nervously in front of the dark door of the Demon King's room. He remembered that the Demon King was Ruronoa's father, and, supposedly, the enemy of this world. His heart started pounding as he wondered if the Demon King would eliminate him in their first encounter. Still, he mustered up all the courage he had and entered the room. To his surprise, the Demon King seemed like a relaxed guy, nothing like the terrifying image he had imagined. The man greeted Ryoku naturally, introduced himself as Tall, and then thanked him for saving his daughter. He even bowed his head, showing an unexpected humility. With the formalities out of the way, Alto told Ryoku that he had something important to discuss with him, and asked about his skill. Before Ryoku could reply, Alto mentioned that he heard that he had been deemed useless in the Lux Empire, and asked if it was true. Ryoku confirmed it, and then opened his blank status window for Alto to see. Alto examined her carefully, and, not finding any listed skills, asked her directly what her skill was. When Ryoku replied that his name was the Hanged Man, Alto almost suffered a heart attack. He explained that another name for Ryoku's skill was Arcane, and demanded to know who else had seen his status. Ryoku admitted that the first person was the old sage of the Lux Empire. That confirmed Alto's suspicion. Then he revealed a shocking news. Ryoku's status was deliberately hidden, and the one responsible was that same stinky old man. Ryoku was stunned by the revelation, and asked to know more about his arcane ability. Alto explained that Arcana users were rare but incredibly powerful, and that there were only 21 in the world, among which was the old sage who hid Ryoku's ability. When Ryoku asked why that fossil would want to hide his power, Alto explained that it was probably to prevent the Empire from exploiting his arcana. Then, he revealed a hard truth. Everything Ryoku had heard about demons being enemies of the world was nothing more than manipulation of humans. In reality, demons were a peaceful race, and did not control monsters. Hearing this, Ryoku pondered, and came to a surprising conclusion. If the demons really controlled the monsters, then Ruronoa wouldn't have been attacked. Alto confirmed that she was right, and revealed that the evil goddess of the Lux Empire manipulated the summoned heroes, isolating them and making them believe that the demons were pure evil. He explained that it was a strategy to justify the war and keep the rich lands of the demons. Cool Lightning found him upset, realizing how the Empire had taken advantage of them. So, Alto presented him with a choice: return to the Empire, show his power and be accepted, or become his son's butler. Whatever his decision was, He promised to respect it. But Ryoku did not sugarcoat his words. He declared brusquely that the empire cared little, that it might as well feast on pig excrement as far as he was concerned. His bold choice made the Demon King burst into laughter, finding his humor much more interesting than expected. Alto admitted that his daughter had begged him daily to hire Ryoku, and now he understood why. Ryoku thanked him, but worried about whether everyone in the castle would accept him. The Demon King reassured him, telling him that Ruronoa had already taken care of everything, and wished him good luck. Soon after, Ryoku found himself standing in a huge arena, with everyone looking at him, as if he had just made a mess. Ruru, who was chatting with two other girls, saw him coming and ran to greet him, relieved to see him healthy again. She cheerfully told him how much she had worried while he was recovering. Suddenly, the two girls came closer, eager to join the conversation. Ruru introduced them as his distant cousins, Neil and Sir. But Sir immediately shot Ryoku a cold look, as if he owed her money. Before Ryoku could react, the girl grabbed him by the neck and let go. That he could never be a servant of the castle with such a pitiful physique. He warned him not to get smart, and swore he would never recognize him. Ruru immediately intervened, ordering him to stop bothering the poor boy, and reminding him that this human had saved his life. Even so, being was not given. He declared that Ryoku must prove himself worthy of serving in the castle, by calling one of his armored knights. Wielding a huge halberd, Sir demanded that Ryoku prove his worth to everyone, promising that if he managed to win cleanly, he would accept it. Ryoku accepted the challenge and calmly adjusted his gloves. As the duel began, the knight threw a brutal blow, but Lightning-kun did not make the slightest move. Luckily, the knight of being missed, and smashed the arena floor with an arrogant smile. Then she provoked him, asking him if he was so scared that he couldn't even move. But Ryoku calmly replied that he had seen no need to dodge such a futile attack. Ryoku's arrogance infuriated the knight, who lashed out again, this time with murderous intent. But when the halberd fell with full force, Ryoku disappeared faster than my father and reappeared behind him. Giving him a brutal kick on the back of the head, the guy almost threw up events. He fainted instantly and crashed to the ground. The entire arena was left in stunned silence. The crowd couldn't believe that a human had taken down an elite demon knight. Being disappointed, Sissio, unable to accept that Rayek really had guts despite his scarecrow physique. Accepting defeat, he finally stepped forward and declared Ryoku the victor of the duel. Runoa, full of pride, immediately ran to the side of his butler, announcing that with all doubts dispelled, they would hold a welcome party for him. But as he turned, he was surprised to see Ryoku kneeling with one hand on his chest. He swore to serve you with total sincerity. That unexpected gesture made Ruronoa blush. Meanwhile, in the Lux Empire, the evil goddess, shedding crocodile tears, announced Ryoku's death to her classmates. But none of those brats cared. Some even mocked him, calling him a powerless virgin inul. Elsewhere, the old hermit found out about Kurei's survival thanks to a strange black bird. The bird also informed him about the mysterious death of the great wolf of the forest and demanded that he stop interfering with the fate of the hanged man. The old man asked why the bird was so obsessed with the boy, but then he shrugged his shoulders, saying that he was of no use to him anymore anyway. All he wanted was to push Ryoku down the path of revenge against the Lux Empire. Still, the bird warned the old man not to mess with Ryoku anymore, or she wouldn't stay quiet this time. It wasn't long before, in the forest, a beast girl sniffed out a trail, while following a particular scent. The path took her to the imposing castle of the Demon King, where she excitedly whispered that she had finally found her master. Meanwhile, inside the castle, our boy was sleeping peacefully, until suddenly the beast girl got into his bed. Startled, Ryoku woke up to find her curled up next to him. Confused, he stepped back while she smiled warmly and called him master, saying, "So he has returned, only now smaller." Ryoku could hardly believe it. She let out a cry of surprise, demanding to know who the hell that senseless girl was. The Demon King entered Ryoku's room, and was equally surprised by the girl's presence, demanding to know what exactly was going on. Ryoku immediately replied that she had no idea, but the wolf girl, her bat, simply explained that her master had saved her from the pain and suffering in the forest. Ryoku still couldn't figure out what she was talking about, so Suva explained that her master once told her to go get him. When she managed to get smaller, and now there she was, small and thin. Ryoku was speechless as he finally remembered that this scruffy girl was the gigantic wolf he had defeated in the forest. It was revealed that in the past there existed a race called werewolves, capable of changing their appearance and wielding magnificent powers. But the humans saw them as a threat, and, with the help of the elves, wiped out the entire race. Only one werewolf survived, and, in his thirst for revenge, devoured half of the great forest where the elves resided. Terrified by his power, the humans called him the Great Wolf of Death. When Reo demanded to know that he exactly wanted her gone, she explained that all her family and friends were dead, leaving her completely alone. She revealed that no matter where she went, people were always afraid of her and rejected her, condemning her to loneliness. But Ryoku was different. He was strong, and I wasn't afraid of him. With tears in her eyes, Su clung to Ryoku, begging him not to leave her alone anymore. He said he wanted to play together, sleep together, and greet each other every morning. Overwhelmed, Ryoku hugged her tightly, understanding how much pain he had been carrying all that time. Just then, Alto intervened, saying that she had no problem with Ryoku staying with her, as she practically treated him like family. With the permission granted, Ryoku accepted his vet wholeheartedly, telling him that they would be together from now on. Suvat became excited and promised to stay by his master's side forever. Later, Suvat appeared groomed, with clean clothes and well-combed hair. He looked much less wild now, but to Ryoku's surprise, he was wearing a muzzle. He told her he didn't need it, but her Beth insisted, saying she hoped it would make her look less scary. She then asked Ryoku to exercise his right of dominion over her. Although Ryoku was uncomfortable with the idea, he did, and Su Beth wagged her tail happily, saying that she was glad to be linked to him. While they were chatting, Fina suddenly burst into the room, informing Ryoku that the 3 demon princesses were ready for their tea party, and that, as their butler, he should attend to them. At the table, Rurinoa, the first demon princess, angrily said that there was a serious problem. The other princesses, Nell and Sur, curious to know what it was about, said they wanted to hear the details. Lightning came in with a tray of sweets, but the atmosphere was tense, especially under Sur's distrustful gaze. However, Ryoku remained calm and served the sweets. As soon as the princesses took a bite, their faces lit up and exclaimed how delicious they were. Ryoku admitted that he had made them himself, surprising everyone. But Rurinoa quickly reminded everyone of the problem at hand: the castle was running out of solar grass, the key ingredient for making sugar. Normally, it was supplied by a nearby village, but that season, the harvests had failed because the sun itself had stopped rising in the village. Sur was horrified, realizing that without yerba solar she would no longer be able to enjoy her sweets, while in him. She found it strange that the sun stopped rising. Rurinoa then revealed that he already had a plan. She assigns Ryoku and Heiser to investigate the matter together, pairing them up in this mysterious case. Sur immediately hits the table, frustrated and clearly annoyed with the idea, while Ryoku is left bewildered, not knowing how to react. Nell, on the other hand, smiles and says that it's a brilliant plan, totally supporting that Ryoku and Sur work together. Sur protests, pointing out that Ryoku is human, but Rurino's cold gaze to silence instantly. With no other choice, Sur grits his teeth and reluctantly accepts the order. Ryoku, remaining serene, bows his head and also accepts. Later that day, a horse-drawn carriage drives along a forest path. Inside, Ryoku is sitting quietly browsing a book, while he looks out the quiet window. She finds the atmosphere of silence uncomfortable, while Ryoku, from time to time, watches her out of the corner of his eye, thinking about how to start a conversation. Through the window, Ryoku sees a huge structure that crosses the heavens, and taking advantage of the occasion breaks the silence by asking Sur what that tower is. With a sigh, Sur explains that it is called the Tower of the Sage, also known as the Tower of the Unification of Languages. Babel, a relic of ancient times, that possesses the power to unify all languages. Ryoku listens carefully and quickly realizes that this tower must be the reason why she can talk and read normally in this world. despite being from another. Grateful, he thanks Sir for the explanation. But she dispatches him coolly. To her, his politeness sounds fake, nothing but flattery to win her favor. He lets her know that nothing she does will change his opinion that he's a suspect. Ryoku is stunned by her harshness, unable to understand why she is so hostile, even when he tries to be kind. After traveling a few more miles, Sir informs Ryoku that his destination is a human village, and that his task is to collect information from the villagers. Ryoku accepts without complaint, thinking it's probably for the best. Still, he can't help but wonder about being. Unlike the other two demon princesses, she looks completely different. When he cautiously asks her which race she belongs to, Sir gives him a deadly look, and coldly tells him that it's none of his business. Meanwhile, back at the demonic castle, the other princesses quietly share a tea, hoping that Ryoku and Sir will at least find a way to get along a little better. Ryoku and Sir finally arrive at the human village, and notice that nothing seems out of the ordinary. The sun is still shining, and the solar grass looks perfectly fine. But suddenly, without warning, the sun disappears, and the entire village is enveloped in darkness. Lightning finds in panic, and demands to know what's going on, but Sir keeps calm, and explains that it's probably some kind of magical barrier. Suddenly, a muscular ogre attacks them out of nowhere, but Being reacts instantly. With a single accurate blow, he rips off her head before she can even roar. Ryoku freezes over, stunned by his sheer speed and strength. As the monster's head and body fall heavily to the ground, Ryoku is warned that monsters become more active at night, and ordered to stay alert. A little later, Ryoku is sent to the village, while she stays behind exploring the area. Nervous, Ryoku advances along a path covered with bushes until the trees open and reveal the Eternal Night Village. There he is greeted by the locals, who thank him for offering to investigate. A girl comments that the situation is quite problematic and complains that without the sun, the clothes do not dry, while a man directs him towards an old woman at the inn who might know more. When Ryoku is heading to the inn, he soon crosses paths with Sor, who startles him with his usual brusqueness, and joins him to go together. When they arrive, they meet the old woman, who claims to have seen a dragon howling at the moon from the top of the mountain. Ryoku asks her if she is sure because old people usually make things up, but she confirms it, saying that although no one else believes her, that memory is etched in her mind. Ryoku listens carefully, and this time she believes him. Dragons may be myths to others, but something about their story feels real. Upon leaving the inn, Sir suggests resting that night, and continuing the investigation tomorrow. Ryoku notices that her sincerity feels strange, and wonders if something has softened her attitude towards him. That night, they enter separate rooms and wish each other good night. Later, already alone in his room, Ryoku falls on the bed, frustrated. He thought that he and Sir were starting to get along better, but the distance between them still remained. With a sigh, he admits that he's never been good at talking to girls. Even in his old world, he was just a shady loser with no friends. That night, the whole village is shrouded in silence. Lightning trying to sleep, but his place dreams of a haunting voice, calling him a murderer. Waking up startled, he is left shaking from the nightmare. Once he manages to calm down, he decides to check how he is being. On leaving, the innkeepers tell her that Sir went alone to the mountains, looking unstable. Alarmed, he rushes after her, determined not to let anything happen to her as long as he is present. As he enters the forest, he notices strange signs. He sees the head of the monster they defeated earlier lying on the ground, but completely drained of its tomato sauce. The protagonist panics, realizing that something much more dangerous is on the loose. Hurrying forward, he finds animal carcasses strewn along the road, all drained. Her restlessness increases, and she silently prays that Sir will be okay. Suddenly, he hears the sound of running water. Following him, he arrives at a river, and, under the moonlight, he is frozen by seeing Hacer standing in the water, with his body full of scars, and even with his sword in hand. The sound of his footsteps gives him away, and Sir immediately turns with hostile and sharp eyes. Lightning finds in panic, and rushes to stammer an apology for seeing her naked body. But before he can say more, the crazed girl unleashes a brutal kick to his chest, pinning him to the ground, and accusing him of having seen his injuries. Looking at her from below, Ryoku sees her fangs shining under the moon, with blood stains around the mouth, and finally understands that Sir is a vampire. Having discovered his secret, Sir coldly declares that the boy must die. Sir insists that, now that Ryoku knows his true identity, he must die. He says he can't risk the world, not even the demonic realm, finding out what he really is. Lightning vows that she will never reveal her secret, but Sir refuses to believe her, because humans once took everything from her. Then we return to the childhood of Being, on the day of his birthday. She was so happy sharing that day with her mom and dad. It was all he wanted, a modest but peaceful life with his parents. While playing outside that day, Sir met a cheerful neighbor who praised her beauty, saying that she would definitely be as pretty as her mother. That day was almost perfect until, suddenly, the little being heard the creaking of her own back. Before she understood what was happening, black wings sprouted from her. The neighbor was horrified and called her a monster. At home, the young being begged her mother for answers, asking if she was really a monster, but her mother hugged her tightly, assuring her that she was still his beloved daughter. Still, Sir couldn't calm her fear, so her mom and dad tried to comfort her, promising picnics and normal days to ease her heart. Suddenly, they heard banging on the door and shouting from outside. The voices demanded that Sir be turned in, accusing her of being a vampire and the daughter of a traitor, who once rebelled against the world. The parents, terrified, tried to hide their fear from their little daughter. To relieve the tension, the father gently stroked Sir's head, assuring her that she was still the same as yesterday, the same good girl. Her mother hugged her tightly, whispering loving words to her as the knocking on the door intensified. Suddenly, flames engulfed the house, and Sir watched in horror as the figures of her parents burned in front of her eyes. As soon as the villagers saw her, they furiously dragged her by the arm, determined to end her life. One even suggested cutting off its black wings first. Terrified, the little being screamed as hatred surrounded her. Then, in the blink of an eye, a huge hell broke out, devouring everything and everyone. In the present, she breaks down in tears over the death of her parents. All because he had awakened the true ancestor's blood. He wonders if it was really so wrong to want to live. Ryoku can only stare at her in silence, without response. Hearing the tragic story of Sir stirred up Ryoku's own painful past. At school, there were rumors that his parents were murderers. That's why everyone was afraid of him, believing that he had inherited some homicidal gene. They said that I didn't even deserve to live with those parents. During all his school days, Ryoku did not find peace. It was always the same, his parents. Now in the present, Being screams, demanding to know why humans become so obsessed with bloodlines and blood. In that moment of rage and pain, Ryoku and Sir declare in unison that they only want to be seen for who they really are. A sudden silence envelops them, and they both finally understand that they are quite similar. After that emotional storm, Ryoku stands up, takes off his shirt, and places it on Sir's naked body. He then grabs her by the shoulders, yells at her to control herself, and calls her an idiot. Sir is stunned, and demands to know what idiot means. Ryoku replies brusquely that it doesn't matter if she's human or vampire, an idiot is still an idiot. He adds that from the beginning he has always seen her as just being, nothing more. Sir gets irritated with his words, asking him what he could know if he is just a foreigner. But Ryo agrees that, whether she's a vampire or not, it makes no difference to him. Being is moved, but explains to him the reality of his existence. She says that as a vampire she can't survive without harming others. Ryoku retorts by saying that humans destroy their own out of pure greed, proving that they can be much worse. She then opens up about her own grief, telling how her parents murdered their own relatives for money. Although he had nothing to do with it, society marked him as the son of murderers. He remembers how people feared him, avoided him and harassed him, with some idiots even asking if he was Adolf Hitler's long-lost son. In the present, Ryoku gets excited, screaming that he had nothing to do with what his parents did. Then, in a firm voice, she assures Heiser that it doesn't matter if she's a vampire or whatever, she's still herself. His words make her cry and remember the happy moments she once shared with her family. Ryoku calms her down further, telling her that Rura, Alto, Nellie, everyone in the demon castle, loves and values her just the way she is. When Sir hesitates and asks if she is really not afraid of him, Ryoku answers without hesitation. She says she always knew she meant no harm, and reminds her how she enjoyed her snacks like a normal, cute girl. Embarrassed, Sir blushes when he calls her cute, but hides his face, and mutters that he is an idiot. Under the moonlight, Ryoku hugs her, comforting her in the silence of the night. Later that night, Ryoku excitedly experiments with a magic fire stone, trying to warm up some milk. Once it's hot, he pours it into a cup and hesitates, debating whether it's okay to take it to the wax room at that time. Just then, someone knocks on his door. Upon opening, Sir is there, hugging a pillow, clearly restless. Ryoku, somewhat uncomfortable, invites her in, offers her the hot milk, and she accepts it with a shy and gentle thank you. The two sit next to each other on the bed, drinking the milk in silence. The closeness makes Ryoku nervous. Sir notices his discomfort, and asks him what is wrong, but he disguises it by saying that he is fine, and suggests that they rest. After a brief silence, Sir gently breaks it by apologizing for what happened earlier that day. Ryoku replies that it's okay and thanks him for finally opening up to him. The moment makes her blush, while Ryoku smiles. The next day, they return to focus on their mission, to investigate the dragon. As they move through the rocky terrain, Ryoku comments that the air feels heavy, and Sir nods, saying that he confirms that the rumors are true. She senses the presence of a colossal dragon, and reveals her identity. It is about Habiria, a celestial dragon that has existed since the creation of the world. Being also adds that that celestial dragon is the only being capable of creating the night. As he approaches the lair, Ryoku's system activates, warning him that he has no chance against the beast. So he decides to try to negotiate instead of fighting. Suddenly, the silent roar of the dragon shakes the air, and Sir immediately orders Ryoku not to let his guard down. When they finally reach the lair, they see the huge creature sleeping. But without warning, the dragon awakens and unleashes a terrifying attack. Sir pushes Ryoku out of the way, and they both end up crashing to the ground. Ryoku quickly tries to reason with the beast, shouting that they are not there to fight. But the dragon does not keep silent with contempt, calling the adventurers foolish. The Ryoku status window flashes, notifying hostility of the dragon and announcing the hangman's test, calming the celestial dragon. Realizing the gravity of the danger, Ryoku wonders if he should use his reverse power. But Sir steps forward without fear. Even when the dragon ridicules her as insignificant, she asks Ryoku to buy her 10 minutes. With firm determination, Ryoku accepts, knowing that doing nothing would mean death. To gain time, activate his reverse ability. Darkness and energy swirl around him, transforming him into his fearsome form. With the wings of a gluttonous lobster, he burrs. Walking towards the dragon, Ryoku tells Sir that he trusts her with his life, and she promises in response, asking him not to die. With reverse activation, Ryoku's stats skyrocket, giving him terrifying abilities: Yawa to attract attention, Gluttony Rock to fly, and Bella to devour everything. With whirring wings, the protagonist takes to the sky, and his system reminds him that the goal of the test is to survive the dragon, with the reward of an increase in strength. Thus, Kulin saw Yawa lightning, marking himself as the dragon's target. The celestial dragon recognizes his arcana, but mocks him as an incomplete hanged man who could never challenge him. He then unleashes a violent gust of wind that throws Ryoku into the air. He struggles to stabilize himself, but the pressure crushes him to the ground. The dragon opens its huge jaw, ready to chew it like a mid-afternoon snack. But Ryoku forces himself to get up and throws himself back into the sky. Irritated by the buzzing of his wings, the dragon curses him by comparing him to an annoying mosquito, and then threatens to show him what happens to fools who provoke the wrath of a dragon. Meanwhile, Lightning questions his flight and begins to read the rhythm of the beast's movements. Then he notices something strange, moments when the dragon holds back. Taking advantage of that, he challenges the celestial dragon to a deadly game of pillow. But the dragon calls him a useless fly for daring to challenge him. Meanwhile, Sir is standing at the top of the mountain with his eyes closed, channeling all his energy for the battle. Upon opening them again, her presence radiates an overwhelming crimson magic that awakens the vampire Night King. The celestial dragon perceives the aura of being and understands that it is no longer a fight that can be taken lightly. As he prepares to unleash his full power, Ryoku lunges forward, shouting that he will not allow the beast to put a single claw on Sir. However, his attack fails, and the dragon knocks him out of the sky like a useless fly, crashing him against the rocks. Then the beast descends, declaring that Ryoku's provocations are worthless, that they are nothing more than the buzzing of a winged insect. To end it all, he prepares to erase them both in one fell swoop. Ryaku lies injured on the rocks, but he feels that something doesn't add up. Every time he fought with the mountain on his back, the dragon held back. Even now, being able to destroy her whole, he chooses to descend and approach. Deep down, he has a hunch that the beast is protecting something inside the mountain. At that moment, the dragon attacks, but Ryoku strikes back with his Severus spell. Instantly, dark tentacles burst from his palm, tearing the air against the dragon's fury. This makes the mountain shake and causes a massive explosion. The impact throws Ryoku to the ground, leaving him bruised and without magic. The dragon, however, steps forward unharmed, ready to crush his fragile body under his huge claw. Rei-Kai is helpless, watching death approaching. Unable to move, and yet he feels no fear, because suddenly supplants herself in front of him, ready to defend him. She apologizes for taking so long, and swears by her blood that she will take over. With the sword raised to the sky, the vampire girl unleashes the powers of the Vampire Night King, and swears revenge against the dragon. The celestial dragon recoils in surprise, recognizing Sir as a direct descendant of the true vampire line. Being embraces that cursed heritage, but this time he claims it as his own power. She is proclaimed as the one who conquered the sun, a real daywalker. His lineage is the most powerful in the world. Even the dragon hesitates when he tries to attack her. Sir releases the power she had always sealed in her sword, determined to protect those who are important to her. His blade explodes with the vampire lord's strength and strikes the beast with overwhelming power. It doesn't stop there. With a final spell, he drains the magic from the celestial dragon, and the creature suddenly collapses, weakened. The Ryaku system immediately confirms his survival against the celestial dragon and rewards him with more strength and mana. With the silence falling, Ryakuizers cautiously approach the beast, hoping to be able to speak. But the proud dragon, too stubborn to listen, shouts at them to shut up and assures that there will be no exchange of words. Moved by pity, Sir comments that they would have had no chance if the dragon had released his night barrier magic. That mention makes Ryoku think. He suspects that something must be wrong for the beast to have contained such power. Putting aside the thought, he approaches insisting that they need to talk. But the dragon screams nervously, warning him not to come any closer. Suddenly, Kyurei feels something brush against his leg. As he looks down, he sees a fluffy little creature pressing down on him with its tiny paws. Realizing that his secret has been discovered, the dragon becomes nervous, begging that they do not harm the little creature. Ryoku finally understands that the dragon was not fighting randomly, but was protecting this tender being. He gently caresses the creature's head, which returns a calm gaze. With everything revealed, the dragon finally agrees to listen to him. They spend the night talking, and in the end, the celestial beast apologizes to Ryoku for his behavior. He admits that the little one, named Kukyu, is not an ordinary animal, but a phantom beast, whose body holds enormous magical power, enough for anyone to overcome his natural limits. That's why hunters of all races are chasing her. Everything makes sense to Ryoku now. The dragon sheltered under the moonlight, forming barriers to heal his wounds. That's why the sun never rose in the village. When Ryoku asks if the adventurers are still after Kyuku, the dragon ruefully admits that they are, revealing that the hunters had put a mark on Kyuku to easily track him. With the tension dissipating, Ryoku asks the dragon to accompany them to the demonic castle. She accepts, and they take off with everyone riding on her back. Enjoying the smooth and firm ride, Ryoku thanks Urdia for taking them, but the dragon dismisses it, saying it's simply a payment for protecting Kukyo. While flying, Urdia praises the Ryaku Arcana. Note that, although incomplete, he demonstrated impressive control over his abilities. Ryaku thanks her, but admits that there is still a lot he doesn't understand about his power. And then politely asks Urdia to explain more about his arcana. Urdia accepts and explains that there are 21 arcana in total, each with immense power. Some are transmitted by succession, where a successor appears when certain conditions are met. Others arise randomly as divine gifts, whose who, when or where is unknown, as in the case of Ryoko. He understands it, but what he doesn't understand is because Urdia called his arcana incomplete. To answer, Urdia reveals that she knew previous hangman bearers, and that, compared to Ryoku, her strength was insane. Hearing this, Ryoku swallows saliva in fear. But realizing that he still has hope to become stronger, he promises to do so, not only for himself, but to protect Ruranoa and everyone waiting for him in the Demon King's castle. Suddenly, Being starts to turn pale. Lightning Ass notices and asks him what's going on. She explains that her vampiric impulses are exploding after having used her magic too much. Then Ryoku does something unexpected. He offers her his neck on a tray for her to drink from. Unable to resist the sight of her juicy and exposed throat, Sir apologizes, promising to be delicate, and starts sucking greedily. But soon he refuses to stop, and Kyurei feels that he is overdoing it. At that moment, his system activates, notifying him that the conditions for the succession of the vampiric arcana have been confirmed. Kyurei suddenly vanishes, only to wake up in the castle, looking at a strange figure with a mask of terror of Teo. Surprised, he realizes that the voice belongs to his boyfriend, now dressed in new clothes designed to match his. She explains that with this new disguise, she can hide her true appearance even outside, and that she can now accompany him on investigations together with her teacher. Intuiting that this crazy idea is due to his loneliness, Ryoku strokes his VV's head, telling him that the mask fits him well, although it's a pity that he hides his cute face. Embarrassed, Sweetbait almost takes off her mask, but Finn interrupts, reminding them that Ruranoa is waiting for them. Suddenly, Ruranoa bursts into the room, relieved that Ryoku has finally woken up. She says that she was worried about what the damn vampire did, and that she even scolded her. But Ryoku reassures her by assuring her that it's okay. Noticing that the tension is increasing, Fina guides the wolf girl out, leaving Ryoku and Rura alone. Now alone, an awkward silence fills the room. Ruranoa's heart beats faster than a bolt spell, making her uneasy. Suddenly, he opens his arms wide as if expecting a hug, leaving Ryoku completely surprised. When she doesn't get any hugs, Ruranoa puffs up her cheeks in frustration, and lets go that, since Ryoku hasn't seen her in a week, he must surely be alone. Ryoku blinks confused, not knowing what to say, but manages to stammer a nervous yes. Ruranoa then extends her arms again, saying that she will allow him to hug her, and orders him to do it at once. Lightning finds in panic, but she insists that it is an order. With no other choice, he sighs and the two embrace under the glow of the moon. Enjoying the warmth, Ruranoa gently asks Ryoku if he likes it, and he responds with respect. But before things get more intense, Ruranoa abruptly pulls away, announcing that the reward is over. She rushes out with flushed cheeks, leaving Ryoku Ladando with his hormones clapping. Later, in the tea house of the Demon King's castle, Rura proudly inaugurates the 32nd Imperial Conference. The room erupts in cheers and applause, with Sir, Nell and even Cuckoo praising his confident tone. But the playful atmosphere fades away when the discussion turns serious. The group begins the meeting by discussing how to handle the adventurers who put a dangerous tracking mark on Kyukyo. Sir immediately suggests blowing their damn heads off, but Rurin disagrees, insisting that he wants a bloodless solution. Nell then proposes an incapacitation spell, saying that although it only works on men, the results are excellent. His idea is immediately rejected by the specific body parts he planned to attack. Ruranoa then reveals that he already has a plan. He says they don't need brute force. What they need is fear, but not just any fear. He insists that it must be so overwhelming that it shakes his enemies to the core. Aiming directly at Ryoku, he slams him dumb before revealing his plan. Make him famous outside the demon country, spreading his image as a fearsome demon. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, the leaves rustle as a venomous snake bursts in, only to be cut off by a shining sword. A group of rank adventurers take a step forward. Proud of their victory, they call themselves the Shining Sword. These adventurers begin to talk to each other about their mission. His target is none other than Cuckoo, and his client is the Archbishop of Babel of the Lux Empire. They complain about the difficulty of infiltrating demonic territory, but their greed drives them forward. One girl, Ruby, suggests that if they capture the rabbit and eliminate all the demons that protect him, the rewards will be huge. However, he warns about the blood wolf lurking in demonic lands. Confident in her knowledge, she assures the team that once they analyze the demon's weaknesses, there will be nothing to fear. Suddenly, the sky changes and day unnaturally turns to night. The adventurers freeze with fear, realizing that something powerful is coming. Out of the darkness, a figure is slowly advancing. His appearance looks more like a demon than a man. This is the chilling staging that Ruronoa had planned. Ryoko emerges from the bushes with a terrifying aura, wearing a mask, adopting the identity of the second coming of the dreaded demon. His mere presence shakes the adventurers, who immediately prepare to fight. However, with an icy voice, Ryak greets him as honored guests and introduces himself as Wuan. He speaks calmly, stating that he has no intention of fighting and only wishes to negotiate. He goes straight to the point, saying that his demand is that they release the marks they put on Kyukyo. Although trembling with fear, Rudy takes a step forward and asks what they will gain by accepting his proposal. Ryoku coldly replies that what he is offering them is his own safety. But Rudy arrogantly rejects the offer and cancels the negotiation. He mocks Ryo, who's calling him a clown, and assures his teammates that he can't be strong if he's trying to negotiate from the beginning. At that instant, black chains shoot out, wrapping his body tightly. His companions shout his name, while the masked man immobilizes them all with ease, and then taunts, asking if they are now ready to negotiate. The adventurers fight in vain, but Ryoku does not stop there. He calmly scratches his mask, admitting that he did not want to go that far. Before invoking something terrifying, with rumbling footsteps, his bedvade appears, now transformed back into his original form of the Death Wolf. The masked protagonist caresses the beast with chilling serenity, and issues a single ultimatum to release the mark. Trembling in chains, the adventurers realize that they are completely at their mercy. So they immediately accept his demand. Soon after, all the adventurers lie unconscious on the ground. Ryoko watches in silence as Nell explains that she cast a sleep spell on them, and suggests moving them as far as possible. As long as they can be somewhat tense, she steps forward to congratulate Ryoku on a good job. She tries to hide her embarrassment, claiming that she only said it out of duty, but Nia annoys her. Funny because of how dishonest it sounds. Meanwhile, her Beth, already back in human form, nervously asks if it was helpful. Ryoku reassures her by telling her that she did a great job playing the role of the scaremonger. When she asks if Kukyu's trademark has already been removed, Ryoku confirms that it has. Even Erdia, now in human form, excitedly announces that the burden has finally been lifted, praising Ryoku's efforts. With the mission accomplished, Nil announces that it's time to move the adventurers, and everyone starts getting ready to leave. But Ruronoa suddenly stops, asking them to go on without her. He explains that he still has unfinished business there, so the rest of the team departs, while Ryoku stays with Ruronoa. When he asks her why she chose to stay, Ruronoa replies that she simply wants to talk to him alone. First he thanks her for helping with being. She then admits that she was frustrated, blaming herself for being useless when she couldn't protect him or do. But Ryo agrees that it was she who saved him. His humility moves her, and she thanks him, smiling slightly. Meanwhile, deep in the great elven forest, the tall demon king and his younger brother discuss troubling matters. They plan to visit the head of the elves regarding Neil. Years ago, Neil had accidentally used a sealing spell on Princess Ruronoa. This forbidden art almost cost her her life as a child and sealed her arcana. Ern reminds Alto that using black magic against a demon princess is a crime of high treason. Alto understands this and assures that, when the time comes, he will have no choice but to execute Nell. 10 years ago, a young Ruru showed her talent by stacking 8 magic circles at such a young age. Nell, only a little older at the time, gasped at her brilliance, calling her a genius. While she could barely form 3 circles, even so, Neil admired his cousin Ruronoa. She dreamed of using magic at her side somehow, protecting her country together. But no matter how hard she tried, she always came up short. With the passage of time, the truth was sinking in. I had no talent for magic. While Ruru continued to shine, admired by everyone, Nell could only watch from the shadows. Soon Sir joined them, and the dream of 2 became 3. The 3 girls swore an oath to protect the country together, and he worked harder than ever, clinging to the hope that the effort would make up for his lack of talent. But when her father apologized for her weakness, it hurt her more than anything. If even her own father had no expectations, surely everyone else had already given up on her too. While everyone was still praising Ruru, Sir was also showing his strength. Nell, meanwhile, felt that he was falling further and further behind. So he threw himself into the study, convincing himself that he should reach them, before disappearing from the shared dream. But no matter what she tried, martial arts, sorcery techniques, nothing worked for her. Eventually, the breach became too painful, and he stopped going to the Demon King's castle, unable to face them anymore. Then came the tragedy. Half a year later, his mother died because of a black magic curse. His father found the sorcerer too late, and he was devastated. However, on his deathbed, his mother asked him to protect the country alongside Ruru and Sir. Her mother's last words became her resolution. He buried himself in studios again, vowing to become stronger. And then one day, his brother put a forbidden book in his hands. Black magic. Nell looked at him with horror. That was the same magic that had ended his mother's life. She hesitated, torn inside, but desperate to become stronger, she accepted the book of black magic. Soon after, Denel's curse magic started to pay off. He destroyed a monster right in front of Ruinoa and Sur, leaving them shocked. Ironically, the girl failed at normal magic. She discovered that she had an extraordinary talent in black magic. He began to investigate day and night, finding new ways to strengthen his curses. That magic fed on their emotions, malice, resentment and hostility. Against groups of enemies, he used sleep curses. Against intelligent opponents, he drove them crazy with berserk curses, and against magic users, he sealed their powers. For the first time in years, Nell felt joy. She could finally fight alongside her friends and fulfill the promise made to her late mother. But deep down, her conscience whispered that this was the same art that had taken her mother's life. One day, a disgusting blood wolf blocked his path. Neil panicked and wanted to flee, but Ruinoa calmly stepped forward, invoking his dazzling and radiant magic. The light cut the wolf with beauty, leaving him amazed. Compared to her cursed arts, Ruinoa's magic shone like perfection, and the gap between them was never closed. While Ruinoa perfected her pure magic, Nell sank deeper and deeper into black magic. Then came the moment that changed everything. Faced with a snake monster, Nell insisted that she too could fight. He cast his first ultra-black magic, an incapacitation curse, meant to disable the opponent's abilities. But the spell got out of control, exploding in a violent detonation. At first, Mel did not give it any importance, knowing that such a spell only worked against those for whom she felt resentment. But to her horror, the black magic hit Ruinoa, knocking her unconscious. Suddenly, a system was activated, notifying him that the devil's succession had begun, and that the condition of using black magic against a blood relative had been fulfilled. From that day on, Enel's path was sealed. His destiny was to become the devil. Back to the present, 2 weeks later, lightning that is summoned by Overlook, and Ern to talk about him. Before starting, Ern asks Ryaku if he is willing to die for the sake of Ruinoa. Without thinking twice, Ryaku declares that, if she must die, she wants it to be for her. Moved by his response, Iron leans over and begs Ryoku to risk his life. He explains that Nell is heading alone to one of humanity's greatest dangers, the Great Hole in the Sky, and begs Ryoku to save her. Alto intervenes, explaining to Ryoku about the dungeons and how they work. He tells her that there are dungeons in which no adventurer has managed to get to the deepest, and the most dangerous of all, is the Great Hole in the Sky. This place is famous for hiding the mythical panacea, a divine medicine that supposedly cures all diseases, wounds and curses. She suspects that's where Ney has gone alone. He adds that the reason is linked to the incapacitation curse that Ney cast on Ruinoa years ago, and that, being too young, he could not undo when it got out of control. However, getting to that dungeon will not be easy. The Great Hole in the Sky only appears once every half a year, protected by barriers and dangers that no ordinary person could face. Only arcana bearers can resist its defenses. Ryoko listens in silence, feeling the weight of the request. Finally, he assures that he will go to the big hole in the sky. But he will not go alone, he will accompany him to be, although not Ruinoa, since he is practically useless in combat. Just as the plan begins to take shape, an unexpected peace breaks in. An elf suddenly appears, announcing her presence to the Demon King. Alto was already expecting her, so she asks Ryaku to take her to Sir's room. Before that, he introduces her as Inda, the charioteer, and says that she is there as help sent by the Elven Kingdom. Ryaku then takes Inda to Sir's room. Upon arrival, Inda knocks on the door non-stop, demanding an immediate duel with Sir. When the door opens, Sir appears in her underwear, apologizing for being late. Ryoku freezes, stunned at that enchanting sight, and Sir panics, but Inde doesn't calm down. He keeps insisting on fighting. A few minutes later, when everything finally calms down, Sir agrees to accompany Ryo to the dungeon, since he is like a sister to her. Having solved this, Inde announces that they will leave for the dungeon with the griffin she bought. But she mentions that she is less interested in the giant hole and more in the black-suited demon she has heard so much about. According to the rumor he heard, this demon crushed an S-rank group and also took the great wolf of death. Filled with admiration, Ina declares that this demon has the scent of an overwhelmingly powerful man, one she would love to make her husband if he turns out to be stronger than her. Sir bursts out of jealousy immediately. Ada teases her playfully, asking if she is secretly in love with that demon. Shortly after, the castle door opens. As the team departs for the mission, Ryoku reflects on the situation. He realizes that his actions are driven by guilt, not true dedication, which reminds him how he felt when he met Ruronoa. Determined, Ryoku promises that he will not let her face everything alone in him. And just as Ruronoa once saved him, now she vows to drag him back, even if it's by force. Suddenly Ruronoa appears, admitting that he does not want Sir Ryoko to risk their lives, but that he still wants to save him. He asks if he is selfish for thinking like that, but Ryoku places his hand over his heart, assuring him that pleasing his desire is his reason for living. With those words, she gets excited again, and firmly orders Ryoku to bring back her silly sister. Ryoku then makes a bow, with Sir and Inde by his side, promising to fulfill what he has commanded. With that, the team takes flight over the griffins, soaring through the skies, towards the big hole in the sky. As the wind hits them in the face, Ryoku holds on tight to do so as not to fall. Several hours later, Ryoku notices a shadow crossing the sky. It is the huge black void of the great hole in the sky, sizzling with ominous energy. But suddenly, he comes in front of them, fleeing in his dragon, determined to enter first. Lightning Heart hides hard as she realizes she is seconds away from disappearing inside before they can reach her. To prevent this, Ryoku prepares to jump off the tap. Before doing so, he invokes enchantment magic to make his body light. The girls look at him in amazement as he rises up to him and his dragon. He closes the distance quickly and grabs the dragon's tail in midair, refusing to let go. The dragon, unable to hold both weights, drops them, but as they fall, Ryoko draws yearns to herself, vowing that she will not let her face this alone. Suddenly, the two are swallowed up by the black celestial sphere, and instantly disappear into its depths. Inside the black hole, rude, unconscious and disoriented, he realizes that he cannot move. In his head, a voice greets him calmly, calling him the Hanged Man. Rudo identifies the presence. He is none other than the Sovereign Dragon. The dragon is introduced as Panda Meito, one of the 3 draconic pillars. When Rudo asks about the whereabouts of Sir and Inde, Panda explains that they were scattered in other places, inside the big hole in the sky. The dragon warns him to pay attention if he wants to survive. Panda begins to reveal the terrifying truth of the dungeon. The Great Hole in the Sky, also known as the Black Celestial Sphere, is actually an ancient research facility, built to study the mysterious arcana. Beings with arcana were used in experiments, and then slaughtered endlessly inside this place, creating a perpetual machine of suffering. To balance the endless curses and deaths, the dungeon itself generated a countermeasure. The panacea, a miraculous elixir that heals all wounds, diseases and curses. But the horrors don't end there. Flying explains that among the failed experiments, there are strange monsters, twisted beings that should not exist. Even a simple G-rank gremlin, normally weak, mutated abnormally under those conditions. And out of countless failed lives came a terrifying existence. The King of Hunger, also called the King of Slimy Poison, a monster of irregular evolution with immeasurable power, whose dungeon became the Great Hole of Heaven. The dragon urges Rudo to prepare to conquer the Black Celestial Sphere. Rudo feels the weight of the task, but Panda assures him that she will support him. Finally, Rudo wakes up and sees Nell standing in front of him. Nell is relieved and suggests to meet with the others and look for the way out. But when Rudo reminds him of the panacea, Nell insists that it's his personal goal and that he doesn't want to bother anyone with it. Rudo confronts her, demanding to know her real reason for entering the dungeon, as no one has ever conquered her alone. Neil confirms it, but avoids looking into his eyes. Rudo realizes that he never planned to return, and accuses her of using the panacea as an excuse. His words hurt her, and he freezes, unable to deny it. He admits that it is unforgivable what he did to Rura. But Rudo contradicts her, insisting that it's not about the past, but about the present, and demands to know if her self-destructive decision is really for the sake of Ruranoa. Nell is silent, unable to speak. Then Rudo shouts that Ruranoa values her more than his skills. Trembling, Nell refuses to believe it. She breaks down in tears, admitting that she once wished she had died then, so as not to have to see Rurano suffer because of her. Tears run down her face as she confesses that she doesn't want to die, but she feels that it's the only way to forgive herself. Rudo presses her harder, asking if she has ever told Ruranoa how she feels. Nell argues that it wouldn't matter, but Rudo insists that Ruranoa already understands. Neil remembers how he only wanted to be useful to the people he loved in the demonic castle, and never intended for things to end like this. Rudo tells him that he understands, then reveals that he was the same, running in circles, trying to end everything by death. But now he understands that dying is the easy way out. Facing the past is harder, but it is the only way to move forward. Rudo extends his hand, urging her to stop running away. He tells him to destroy this hole next to him, and to return together to Ruranoa. Nell hesitates, but then takes her hand with a slight smile of resolution. With that decided, Rudo calls the Dragon Sovereign, and declares that he will destroy all the monsters in this dungeon. But to do so, he demands the strength of the dragon. His status screen suddenly glows, and his powers start to increase rapidly. Panda then explains that a seed was planted in him a long time ago, and that he can now rewrite the very structure of the arcana. Suddenly, the restrictions of his reverse state disappear. Inside this dungeon, you can now fight without time limits. Ready to face the monsters of this dangerous dungeon, Rudo looks at him, and assures him that he will not let him die. He promises to protect her no matter what it takes. That conviction awakens the power of pride, activating its reverse transformation. Flames erupt around him, as Rudo summons a weapon like no other. His form changes, and his aura overflows with divine arrogance. His new form is proclaimed as the Blasphemer, sword-bearer of the arrogant princess, not Aelia. Meanwhile, in another part of the dungeon, St and Inda make their way through enemies with ease. Still, the concern for Rudo and Nell lingers in their hearts, and they fervently pray that they will both be safe. But when they open the next door, they find two of Rudo's classmates, locked in a desperate battle against a swarm of monsters. The blonde boy, Machino, casts magic from vines, but admits that he won't be able to contain them for long. While the girl and Arahi panic when a monster lunges straight at her. Suddenly, Sir and Inda intervene, taking down the monsters with ease. And Aji and Machino freeze in surprise before nervously thanking them for saving him. But Inda squints suspiciously, demanding to know who the hell they are and why they have appeared in such a dangerous place. Matino tries to disguise with his usual carefree charm, calling the beauties and trying to flirt. But before he finishes, Sir coolly draws his sword, warning him to answer right or he will lose his mind. Terrified, and rushes to apologize for Machino's idiotic behavior and introduces them both. Then confess the truth, they are not of this world. He explains that they were summoned from another world by the Lux Empire and boldly declares that they are the Ice Sky Warriors, destined to save this world. Ryoku and the girls will make it out alive. Comment Edmund if you are excited to see what happens in the second part. If you enjoyed this video, leave a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for more epic content. Thanks for watching, as always.